getting people to share your podcast. Now, there's so many different ways that we can cut this cake, if you will, of how do you get people to share it. What I think is the simplest way is by you going on other podcasts in the beginning and over time to spread awareness. Yes, you could run ads. Yes, you could do podcast swaps. You know, there's so many things that you can do, but I really think in the heart of it, looking back over the last 6 years, what has helped me grow the most is when I go on other people's podcasts to share my story, and then they come to my podcast, they listen, they really find value, they enjoy it, and they keep coming back. The other thing that really helps with getting people to share it is referrals. The best way to get a referral, meaning someone listens to your podcast, they think it's amazing, and they tell their friend about it, and that friend tells their friend, and then that friend tells their friend. The big reason why my podcast grew, especially in the beginning, was because of that word of mouth marketing. People heard it, they loved it, and they shared it. So how do you get that word of mouth marketing going? By creating really valuable, consistent content on the podcast. Let the podcast do the work for you. Let it market for you. Let it speak for you. And that's really what I focused on. I didn't focus on how to hack the system. I didn't focus on how I could try to get someone to do something. I didn't run ads at all in the beginning of my podcast. For years, I didn't run ads. I didn't have to because the value was there and it was so quality and it was so driven. People happily shared my podcast with their friends, with their families, with their coworkers, on their social media pages. Now, I will say nowadays with social media and just the changes of it, I don't see as many people share about podcast episodes as, say, I used to back in 2018, 2019, but they still do if they feel really connected and resonated with it. But I think where I see people sharing the most nowadays is not necessarily online, but it's genuinely the word of mouth. Someone goes to a conference and they're sitting there with a group of people and they're talking about really good quality podcast content, and your podcast could pop up. Or they're having lunch with friends. This comes up. And then people start talking about it. And so I think that that's really how you have to look at it, is knowing that there's probably going to be a lot of conversations happening out there in the world that you don't even know about, but you can't let that diminish or stop you from continuing to show up and do good work, because you never know what's happening, the word of mouth and the marketing that may be happening around you that you don't even know about, because you're so focused on the strong quality content. And so that is the biggest takeaway when it comes with the must-have marketing. Focus on the value, focus on the consistency, focus on the content. And when somebody does share your work, tell them thank you. Ask them what they loved about it. Really do your own kind of social feedback, if you will. Get that feedback from all the social spaces and all the people in those spaces to really hear from the people that are actually listening to your podcast what's resonating with them. And that will help you create content as you move along.